Madhuri Charanam, Jainandalal, everybody. Today is a very important topic for every one of us. We're always surrounded with these questions of when can we attain the Lord's feet? How many janmas, lives do we have to take to reach the ultimate? It's always there, right? What do we have to do to reach the Lord's feet? So these questions are there always in our minds. And when you read our scriptures, everything is there in our Puranas, in our books, Not all of us go and read it. All the information is there. Everything is there, given to us beautifully by the Lord himself, Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva. All of them have provided us with these answers. But we never go and reach out for those answers. When we see an insect, when we see a bird, when we see elephants, tigers, or lion, cheetah, or whatever, they're all in a journey. They're born as that species. How many janmas do they have to take to reach the Lord? We don't know. Every species. I always mention this to you, and I'm going to repeat it again. Human beings are the most gifted because after a long period, we come to this space where we get this engine, this body. How many janmas or lives do we have to take to become a human being? Have you ever thought about it? It is given in our scriptures. It is there, provided. It says we have to take 8,400,000 lives or births to reach the human stage. I let you think about it. Let it sink in. Right? 8,400,000 births. After that, we are this. You're sitting here, and if you're listening to me, you have a human body. This is what you went through to get here. For that, you can give yourself a tap. But after this, what? Huh? After this, what? After all this struggle, we have come here. We don't remember any of it, right? We don't remember anything. You were a bee, you were or maybe a cockroach also. You were a housefly, you were a pest. Mouse, cat, dog, all of it. And we have come here. That itself, we should have gratitude. A sense of thank you to Ambal for bringing us here safely. First line of the finish line, first part is human being. After that, it's immediate reaching Lord's feet. It's not that easy though. Not that easy. Of course, the path is laid out like that. From here, it's the Lord's feet. But not many get there so easily. Again, you can be born as an animal also. You know that? If you don't do what is required. So if your karmas are such that you abuse an animal, mistreat an animal, hmm, you'll become that animal again. It's how you behave, how you want your life is how you behave, and then you pave your path accordingly. Carefully tread. You think life is easy? No, life is not easy. It can be easy if you think of the Ambal the whole time chanting her name, then like Lord Krishna said, when you think of me before you do anything, you're not going to do wrong. So that's the key. So there is a story from our Puranas which reinstate whatever I just said. It's like a beautiful story. Well, I'll just start, you'll know. There was a king named Nabi. He had no children. This story is from our Bhagavatam. So, Bhagavatam is all the stories compiled about Lord Narayana and Lord Krishna, all about bhakti. It's like an ocean of bhakti. It's a river, beautiful, it's flowing. So, this one is from Bhagavatam too. So, it's about a king named Nabi. He had no children. So, he wanted to do a yagna to please Lord Narayana, and he wanted a son just like Lord Narayana. Now, this is reminds us about again Adi Shankara's parents, right? They wanted a son like Lord Shiva. And they prayed to the Lord and they got it. You ask something with full bhakti and dedication, sincerity, you get it. What are you asking for anyway? Nothing to for your personal benefit. If you want the Lord to be born, you're asking for the benefit of the community. Correct? If the Lord is born, He's not going to do only good for you. His radiance is so much that it's like a lamp. Look at the lamp burning beside me. It illuminates everything. So the light, you cannot just keep it in one place. It's for everyone. So he wanted a son like Lord Narayana. So the yagna was mainly conducted by the rishis and munis of his kingdom, so that mainly to please Lord Narayana, so that he can be born to this king, Nabi. Now, Lord Narayana was pleased. It's not very easy to please Lord Narayana. It's not like Lord Shiva. They had to do yagna for a long time. Mm. But that is the beauty of him too. It's hard to reach, That also makes him beautiful. So he showed up. He showed up, and the Rishi Munis they were so awed by his beauty, they started singing praises of him. He is beautiful. He is all dressed up. They have their own beauty. Lord Shiva's simplicity and Lord Narayana's magnificence. So his beauty is just no words. So they were singing praises of him. They saw him, they forgot why he was summoned. So they started singing praises of him, his beauty is all shining. bright, and he's like golden silk adorning him, his crown, the gems that adorn his crown. Beautiful Lord standing in front of. And of course, the Rishi Munis, after praising him for many, many, many hours, then they tell him, Swami, we are ashamed. We are ashamed that we summoned you for a reason. We are ashamed even to, um, give you this reason that the king needs a son. We're ashamed we're asking you something. When you're standing in front of us, we shouldn't be asking you anything except moksham. Here we are asking you something. Our king needs a son. So always when you think about or read about these stories in our scriptures, Puranas, the Rishi Muni, they do all these yagnas for the well-being of the land, not for themselves. Which Rishi has asked for any boons? No, no, none of them. Whatever they got is because they pleased the Lord, and the Lord gave it to them. They were pleased, and the Lord himself came and gave it to them. That is why they have so much power. Not because, like Asuras, they asked and gained. So the Rishi Munis always did yagna for the welfare of the kingdom. So now the kingdom has no heir to the throne. So that is why this yagna was conducted. And then they, put forth their desire, told Lord Narayana that their king needs a son. And the son, of course, the king was there too, but he was awed by the beauty. He didn't know what to say. His speech was stopped. He was dumb, mute. This is what happens too. When the Lord comes in front of you, you don't even know what to say. So the rishis had to speak. The rishis asked him, the king needs a son. He desires a son like you, Swami, they said. So he smiled and he said, Avladane, that's all. I'll be born as his son. So there ends the thing. King was so overjoyed, so happy he was. He was, his tears were like rolling down his cheek with happiness. He was so happy and he was looking forward to this baby. And soon the child was born, the son was born, and he was named Rishaba. So now Rishaba he was given the best of knowledge in Vedas, and Shastras, and weaponry, everything, because he's a prince. And this is the Lord who was born to him. Unlike other avatarams, this Rishaba avatar of Lord Vishnu himself, Lord Narayana himself, was like any other human being. He was very normal. He was very like any other person you meet. But only King Nabi knows that his son was Lord Narayana. There was no power shown, no miracles, no nothing. Now Rishabha married and he was soon crowned the king because he was the only son. He was crowned the king soon and he was a king. And he had 100 sons. And the first son was Bharata. Now Bharata was a noble king. Now Rishabha was a very noble king. He was like Rama, Lord Rama. No powers, even Rama had powers. Of course, Rama was unaware of it, all that we have spoken about. But he had powers. Rishaba, his power was his devotion to the Lord. He himself was the Lord, but he was devoted to Lord Narayana. This is this is something we have to understand, you know. It's like you must be thinking, oh, Narayana's born. Why is he devoted to himself? He is showing how to be. He has to be born to be a role model for others, to show you how to reach the Lord. So he was a big devotee of Lord Narayana. He taught his sons all the right ideals, the best ideals he gave them, rules of conduct, how to behave, how to be, rules of dharma, how to lead a righteous life. He was very, very strict about these things. He brought them up in the most humble way. There was no arrogance that we are the king, we're the prince. Everything was given by the Lord. It can be taken away anytime. We can be defeated anytime. Right now, the Lord has given it to us, so we're having it. So Rishaba, King Rishaba was an avataram to show the world that a man can be king, have all the luxuries in his life, have a family, most beautiful wife, have 100 sons, but yet live like a sannyasi, being detached, doing all his duties, very dutiful, a good husband, a good father, a good king for his praja, for his subjects. So the Lord just didn't come and be a grihastha just for the heck of it. He came and he led a life like that to show us if he can do it, we should at least try. What doesn't he have? We clearly don't have anything. He has everything. But yet, he came here, he lived like an ordinary person, though he had the kingdom. He was the king. Now, there's a reason why he was a king and he led a grihastha life and all that to show us everything. That is why we are even paying attention. Do we pay attention to a sannyasi? Do we pay attention to a monk? Unfortunately not. We'll just say, he's a sannyasi. He's a monk. But let's say, but we do pay attention to celebrities. We do pay attention to big superstars. We do pay attention to rich businessmen, successful. Our attention is on them. We are awed by their success. Wow, what a powerful man. We applaud. But a monk? Ah, so let's say a big successful businessman or a celebrity, a person who has many degrees, who had a big successful business and everything. And then he renounced everything. And then he came to a path of devotion or spirituality. Then we will look at it. Then we notice it. Am I right? We notice only then. So the Lord had no other option. The Lord had to be born as a king to get your attention. So this was a major lesson taught to the world, taught to his bhaktas, that if the Lord came down, led an ordinary life, showed no miracles, showed no other thing, but led a very normal life like a human being, was the Rishaba. Now, what King Rishaba did is he gave good values to his sons. He was always talking about Lord Narayana and how to reach Lord Narayana. He always taught them detachment. He always told them that I'm going to leave. When I leave, no shedding any tear because I'm going to my Lord. After they attained a certain stage, that is Bharata, his older son, he crowned him king. And Bharata also got married. He also had children. Now, because of the good values he had given Bharata, that is his older son, now he's king. Now, that is one reason, Bharata ruled the land so beautifully. He was such a noble king, just like his father Rishaba. Now, what a blessing to receive all those lessons from the Lord himself. Think about it. What a blessing for the son Bharata to receive all those actual lessons of life from Lord Narayana himself. He was a special king in our history, in our scriptures. Bharata is very, very popular, at least in Hinduism. And that is one of the reasons why our land also was called Bharata Varsha. Bharata's land, because he ruled it. You wouldn't know this, right? So now he has taught his sons the values. All that is done. He's old now. So he renounced everything and he left his family and he went to the forest. King Rishaba, that is the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He left everything and he left to the forest. And then, of course, after a few days, he's reached his place. There is no moksha for Rishaba. He's the Lord himself. So I cannot say that's moksha. He reached his abode. Now coming to his son Bharata. He's crowned the king. He's beautifully ruling the land. And all the many lessons he learned from Rishaba, he's using it, incorporating it in his daily life. And he's a good father too. He turned out to be a very good father because always you learn from your father. You learn from your parents. And this was good lessons instilled and he used it again to bring up his own his children. Now Bharata, of course, again, a big devotee of Lord Narayana, again, like his father, because that was given to him, he followed it. He was a big devotee of Lord Narayana. He started his day with his thoughts. Very early in his life, he renounced everything. So he gave his sons, soon as they turned of age, the time 16 to 18 when they're right for crowning prince to be crowned as king, he immediately gave the kingdom to them and he left the kingdom. So think about it. Sooner, even before Rishaba, he left the kingdom. He renounced everything and he left and he gave everything to his sons. He divided his kingdom and gave them all. Beautiful, no? We have to learn this also. See, it was done very nicely then. Problem of property and all. See how beautifully he has done it. Divided it, gave it to his sons, made everybody happy and left. Now, Bharata was filled with thoughts of Lord Narayana. So he went to the forest and he went to near the Himalayas. He wanted to just meditate, do penance. He went to an ashram and he lived there with the rishis, doing seva there and meditation there and all that. This was what his life was. He was just wearing deer skin, nothing. You can't even think he was a king once. And his early morning prayers, and then whole day with Lord Narayana's thoughts. So this is how his days went by. One day when he was seated on the banks of the river, doing his daily prayers, a deer came by there to drink water from the river. Suddenly there was a roar of a lion. So, roar of a lion, I don't have to tell you, it's pretty loud. And it can give you a shiver even without your knowledge. The whole vibration inside happens automatically. It doesn't have to, nobody has to tell you, hey, you need to get scared. It's automatic. So the deer, she was so scared, she leaped and she wanted to go to the other side of the other end of the bank. Other side of the bank. So she leaped and she started running across the river to the other side. And while she was doing that, she gave birth to a baby deer. A fawn just fell out. She gave birth and she still ran to the other side and she just made it to the banks and she fell. She fell dead. She died immediately. She gave up her life. Now the fawn was left in the water. It was just trying to catch its breath. Just born, right? King Bharatha is in the banks watching this whole thing, unfolding. He suddenly overcome a pity. He felt a pity just arising in him and he just ran and saved the fawn from drowning. And he picked it up and, when he picked it up and held it, embraced it, he felt this motherly love all of a sudden. Suddenly a bond towards the fawn, and he brought it out of the water and he dried it and brought it to the ashram, fed it milk and took care of it. Okay, next day should have been thoughts of Narayana, right? No, because the fawn was like, it's like its mother's not there, right? It's poor thing is crying. So he had to be the mother. So he lifted it and again fed it milk and again took it out and he was spending all his time with it. Days go by like this and then the fawn is grown up. It's a big deer now. So Bharata, okay, now let me go and get back to my prayers and routine. And he goes and he sits and he starts to meditate. He closes his eyes. First thing he sees is this beautiful deer. And then he smiles. He's like, oh gosh, I wonder where she is. I wonder where she is. And then he immediately goes and runs and looks for her. And he finds her and he gives her a big hug. He's like, oh my God, I was so worried where you are. I'm so glad you're okay. Then he brings her back and then she's sitting in front of him and then he starts meditating again. Now at least she's in front of me, so I won't be worried. Meditates and then again the deer appears in his mind. It's like the mind has captured the deer. That's his attachment. So attached to the deer, he's not able to let it go. Even if the deer goes, to graze, somewhere far away, little far away, not too far, he gets so stressed out. He's like, that poor thing has nobody. That poor thing is so dependent on me. I'm the only one for her. What will it do without me? Who will take care of it? Have you seen the way it looks at me? Those innocent eyes. It looks at me like, I have only you. How can I abandon it? It has no family. How can I fail it? I am the only family. It's my duty to protect it. He's taken it up. Very seriously, he's taken it up. Now he wanders with the deer also everywhere. Even if it's going to graze, he'll go with it. So scared, some lion will eat it, so he goes with it. So the meditation is gone. Lord Narayana is gone. No thoughts of Lord Narayana, no puja, no nothing. No meditation, no penance. Even to take his name, he had no time. Forgotten. The deer has entered his life. Now days passed by, the death has to arrive. The last days have to arrive. For all of us, that day has to arrive. It was near. He's lying in his deathbed now. Okay, at least then he will think of Lord Narayana, right? No. Even then, he did not think of Lord Narayana. He was looking at his deer sitting and looking at him. It's like, oh my God, poor thing, I'm leaving you. I'm leaving you. What are you going to do without me? He's breathing his last, and he's like, slowly his eyes closes, and the last vision is the deer. Because his eyes were fixed on the deer, because his last thought was the deer, his soul left his body. And what did he become next life? The deer. He was born as a deer. What a pity, isn't it? He was this close. It was pitiful. Pitiful. When I read this, I was like, "Chah, what a life." It's like the snake and ladders game, no? You go all the way up. And then doom, one long snake will bring you back down. That's what happened to Bharata. Now, Bharata was born again as a deer. Since he was, thinking about the deer and his all thoughts were of the deer, he was born as a deer. But one thing was very fortunate. He was very fortunate because he remembered his previous life. He remembered all the blunders he did. And why he landed up as a deer. He knew everything. Obviously, now the deer can't talk. Deer is a deer. But he remembered his previous life. What a pitiable state I was in, was his thought every time. What a pity. I was a king. I renounced my kingdom. I left my sons. I left my wife. A successful king. I left everything and I came to the ashram just to reach you, my Lord, my Swami. And this deer came and captured me, he says. My attachment for the deer took me. I was bound by this silly attachment. So he had that very clearly in his mind and he traveled towards an ashram. So he knows where to get this. He knows you have to be surrounded by good people, good thoughts, mantras, slogans, rituals, so that we keep our mind intact. We keep our mind without getting derailed. Thoughts are important. See what happened? So thoughts are very important. So the deer, Bharata as the deer, walks towards the ashram and spends the whole time around rishis and munis. Always listening to the mantras, always watching the yagnas, always watching them, listening to their everything and wandering around with them so that he hears the Lord's praises, the Lord's stories. So the whole time the deer was in thoughts of the Lord, waiting for his death. So here he was waiting. He wanted to shed this body and go to the Lord. It's not easy. Once you're born as a deer, you have to go back to the human form. So that is why the human form is a boon. What are we doing with it? Have fun. Are you using the time efficiently? So now he waited for the body to shed, and he finally sheds the body, free from the deer form. That's a big thing. Now he's born to a Brahmin family. To be born to a Brahmin family is also a boon. It's given to you because, why a Brahmin family? Because Brahmins' duty is to always chant Vedas, to always do rituals. That's the duty of a Brahmin. Just so you know. How many Brahmanas do it? I don't know, but this is our duty. To think of the Lord, to always chant Vedas, always do rituals. Rituals not for our good, for the community's good. That is why you find a lot of priests, as the Brahmins are the priests. That is their duty. So he's born in a Brahmin family. His father is well versed in all scriptures, Vedams, Shastrams, all that. But here also he remembers his previous lives. Bharata remembers his previous lives. And how is he born here? The Brahmin has two wives. The first wife has 9 sons. The second wife has a daughter and a son. So the second wife's son is Bharata. And he is so fed up with all the blunders that he has done that he chose to be mute in this life. Something like Adi Shankara's, one of his students, if you remember, Astamalaka, he gave a picture like he was mad and mute. If you remember, just go back and listen to Adi Shankara's session. You will enjoy that one student's story. Something very similar to that. So he gave a picture that he was crazy, no use, madman, kind of a picture. Though he was very clear in his thoughts, he was like, I'm not going to waste my time talking to any human beings. Very clear. I am not going to waste any time chanting any mantras. I am not going to waste my time in any rituals. I'm only going to chant the Lord. One name, Om Namo Narayana, the whole time. I'll just give them a picture that I'm crazy and dumb. They won't bother me. So this was his plan. He did it pretty well. He was mute the whole time. His father was trying to give him this Gayatri Mantram lesson, all that. Nothing worked. He couldn't even chant. He would try and he would mess up the whole words that his father gave up. It's like you're messing up everything. You cannot mispronounce everything. So you just don't chant. So they let him. They just gave up on him. He was like a useless son. He came with a, he was very clear. But others thought he was useless. He wanted to rectify his mistakes. So he stayed quiet. He's like, I don't want to waste time talking to any of these human beings. They're not, mm, they're not going to take me where I need to go. So his father eventually, he died suddenly for a disease and he died. And his mother couldn't take that stress and she also died after a few days. Now the stepmother was taking care of Bharata. The stepmother was not nice to him. She ill-treated him because again, he was no use sitting in one corner and he was like, bye, in some thought. So obviously, if somebody is sitting like that, no one pays any attention to that person, right? They think he's mad. So the food also, she never gave him good food. She gave him stale food. She gave him 2 or 3 days old food. It would stink. But Bharata hated it. For him, nothing mattered. So detached he was with this life and with the material and with his stuff, whatever was going around him. Anyone can spit on him. It didn't matter to him. It didn't matter to him. He wouldn't take a bath. He was not worried about his looks. He was not worried about how he looked, how he portrayed himself. He was like a gem covered in dust, only physically. Inside, he was a gem, beautiful gem. So he was not perturbed by any of their behaviors. All of them ill-treated him. Then one day, he was given a duty to take care of the fields because, the corn would be attacked by birds or animals, some animals. So they told him, you stay there and take care of it the whole night. So guard the fields. So he was put there to guard the fields and he was guarding the field that night. In the same vicinity, there are a few robbers. The robbers are everywhere. This place also had a few robbers. And they have a chief, the robber chief is there. So the chieftain of the robbers, the robber clan, he had no son. See, look at the thing. He needs a son, the heir to the throne, the robber also. So he had no son. So he wanted a son to take over his responsibilities. Robber also has a responsibilities. So that poor robber got misled by some sadhu who said, you have to give a healthy boy as a sacrifice to goddess Kali. Then you will get a son. So he sent all his servants in search of a healthy boy. That is when our Barata was sitting and guarding the field. So the robber servants come to the field and they see this boy, healthy, very nice, but all dusty. and with a loin cloth, and his hair was all matted, and in thoughts, he's looking somewhere in the sky. He didn't even know that these guys were standing in front of him and staring at him. He had no idea. Lost in thoughts of Lord Narayana. He's sitting there. So they carried him. "Vah, தூக்கலாம், vah." And they carried him, and this guy's not even resisting. So at least somebody will resist, fight, What are you doing? Let me go. This guy's. That's something, right? They were surprised. "Dada, சண்டையை போட மாட்டேங்கிறான்." "Yeah, it's okay, it's okay, Why isn't he fighting? Why isn't he fighting us? You know? But it's okay, it's good for us. Let's take him and go. The job is done." Goddess Kali made it easy for us. She wants him. So what they do is they take him there. They sit him down. They they shower him, pour tons of water to clean him up, and cut his hair, and they beautify him for the sacrifice. They put sandalwood, smear sandalwood on him, and they give him good food. Ella Shapad. They feed him so well. He eats that. No complaints. He's not complaining. He's just sitting there and letting them do what they want. They put a red sindoor in his head, kungumam in his forehead, and they placed him at the altar in front of the goddess Kali. And then it was time for his head to be chopped. So they bring a sword and they want to, they go towards him with it. They swing it. Right then, the goddess emerges from the idol. The Kali herself emerges from the idol. Oh, I love this part. I love this part in this story. One reason why I picked this story is very funny, but because of this episode. The other things are all okay. So the goddess Kali of all the people emerges out of the statue, the idol, and she not only that, she doesn't come alone. She comes with her attendants, and she stands there and roars. Her roar is more than a lion. Her roar is not anything like a lion. Her tongue is out, her scary self. She's so angry that an innocent boy was being butchered for no reason. Look at that. That boy is not even her devotee. That boy didn't even call out for her. The boy had no clue who Kali was. Huh? That is my mother. That is Ambal. That is Ambal. She is there for anybody who's innocent and anybody who's put in the wrong situation. Anybody who is ill-treated. She's there. You don't have to even call her. She was watching all this till that moment came. An innocent child getting butchered in front of her eyes. She didn't allow. All her attendants went and chopped off all their heads. All the robbers were done. They were gali. Done. And she just stood there. She didn't even lift a finger. She was just standing there and roaring. That's all she did. And laughing. Roaring and laughing. Loud. Then she patted the boy, Bharata, gently with her hands on his head. As Kali is not scary after all, The avataram of Kali, I can just go on and on and on. It's people just find her scary, but She's a mother, the most gentle, and she's obviously misunderstood. So she patted Bharata on his head and blessed him and disappeared along with her attendant. She went back. Job is done. Bharata had no reaction. Who came? What happened? Nothing. It was the same, like that. He walked out of there as if he just walked out of the theater watching Vijay movie. And okay, I just saw a beautiful stunt and action. He walked out of there and he just wandered away. Now, human life, of course, he shed that body eventually and he reached Lord Narayana. The point is, this story is so key, for all of us. Human life is a boon. We should not be wasting any time. Every minute is so precious. Whether it is thinking about our son or our wife or our daughter or our husband or our parents, a lot of them so attached to their parents that they get all these fears. Attachment is wrong. Everyone is here for a purpose. All of us are souls. So we have to have that focus. What are we here for? What is our purpose? And we should always think about Ambal. Whatever we do, time wasted here is gaining time later. If that makes sense. Time wasted here is gaining time later. If you like time, yeah, gain it. I don't like time. I don't want to gain any time. So if that is how you think, then spend it more mindfully. Who you friend with, who you pick as your conversational partner, who you talk about all the time. Don't talk about a politician, actor, singer. Talk about Ambal. Make yourself always, always make it a habit to speak about Ambal. Yeah, talk about all that, but understand that time is running, ticking. If you talk about an actor, always have a timer because they don't really need all that time. Even if it's your, a teacher. But after all, human being. Yeah, talk about them for a bit. But come back to Ambal. Ambal has to be the main conversation. That should be our fear all the time. Our fear should be, oh my God, I wasted all the time on this topic. Let's get back to Ambal. When we go back this story and we see all the blunders that Bharata did, it's very clear, right? He saved the deer, which is amazing. You and me would have done the same thing. Saving a deer is not the wrong thing. After saving the deer, he made deer as his life goal. That was not right. He got attached. Emotionally, he got attached. He was thinking, what would happen to the deer? What happened? Eventually, he had to die. After that, did he even think about the deer? No. He was born as a deer and he was thinking he was an idiot. Did even one thought of his go back to that deer? No, he didn't. Because he knew, oh my God, this is all an illusion. What a fool I was. This deer example is a deer in this book, in this story, but this deer could be our dear once. Wow. Could be our dear ones. So when you see them, see the deer. Remember the story. Love and attachment is not one thing. It's two different things. And if you understand that you can still love a person without getting attached, then you are free from that bondage. Which Bharata lost, because this is how the Lord, the last test that he releases. Oh, he's renounced everything. Wonderful. Now let's give him a test. That's when the deer came. Allati utta purma. It's not enough to leave everything. You have to give him one last test. So that test, the vulnerable, he got, his weakness was shown there, right? He fell for it. Now he had to take 2 more janmas. Otherwise, he would have, he would have reached the Lord's feet. For doing all that, he would have reached the Lord's feet. That's why I felt very pity. What a pity. He had to be born as a deer and then again a human and go through all those atrocities and ill treatment and then to reach the Lord. It's a beautiful story, though. Teaches us a lot. And I hope you enjoyed it. So our habit has to be chanting Ambal's name all the time. Whatever chaos is happening around us, don't pay attention to us. It's only to divert your attention. Whatever chaos. You would not like the environment outside. You would not like um, something outside. Your teacher, or your boss, or your leader, or your whoever. Don't pay attention. Don't pay attention to anything. Ambal has to be the only attention. It's all a dear put in your life. Don't get attached to it. Attachments can happen to good things and bad things. When something bad happens, also you're attached to those thoughts. You're like, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why did this? Why did that? It's an attachment. If it's a good thing, oh, I love my son. I love my daughter. She's the best. Look at her. Beautiful she is. What'll I do without her? Oh, son, right? I love my son. He's my gem. Our goal is to reach the Lord's feet, to reach Ambal. For that, we have to let go. Everyone will be fine. You're not saving anybody. You can't. Everyone will be fine. Till date, you have not saved anybody. You can't. Everyone was saved by her, taken care of by her. This Kali episode should tell you something. Without even he calling her name, she came. There are only few episodes of Kali coming in. This is one in our scripture. Without calling, she came. It's beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this session. Madhuri Charanam, Jainanda.